Good evening, all. First of all, thanks to Greenlam to invite us to be in this place. I would like to ask you all, how does a designer's choice of finish and material impact their recommendation to clients? Yeah, you can.
Good evening. Thank you for the question. We as designers, when a person comes to us to build his home, we need to understand that we are building a house, but he is building a home. So when we go ahead and make designs for him, the material classification is done in a very systematic manner. We form a material selection palette which is doing justice to the designs which are made. Further, after that comes the cost associated with those materials, because of course the client will have a budget, so certain materials will be eliminated then and there. After that comes the durability of the material, how durable the material is going to last, how the material has to be sourced from ecologically responsible sources. That's something which is very important. It has to be sustainable, should be easily available, depending upon the location and the geographic, wherever you're designing. It should be able to sustain the wear and tear of the environment. And last, we also try and see if we can use some material that can be recycled in the future. So these are the things which kind of, make us help select the material palette for the client.
Do you educate them about the materials? Like to the
Okay.
client, because they may not be that.
Okay. So when the client comes with a good budget, we try and use natural materials which are available, because natural materials have got least human intervention. So that means less of carbon footprints are left there. So then when it comes to stones, marbles, cement panels, lime concrete paints, bamboos, wood, these are all kind of natural materials which we try and use. When the budgets become limited, we try and flip-flop the materials with tiles, wooden floorings, laminates instead of veneers. We come down to other kind of manufactured paints. So this is how we kind of alternate materials and still try and do justice to the designs which we've made.
What do you said about cement panels?
Yes.
What is it a human friendly one or?
Yes, it is. It is. And we are kind of using a lot of cement panels in the exterior facades nowadays.
Exterior.
Even in interiors, where we kind of trying to give a rustic look or an industrial look. So cement panels are quite in.
What influences does the choice of material such as wood, veneer, laminate or PVC board have on a designer's satisfaction and recommendation?
I think the language of the question was something that I could not understand. But yeah, see, I'll start with the first question. When we start looking for a material, there's this first start point is the aesthetics. And, client comes with his own aesthetics. And, finding a good client whose its aesthetics has to be at that level that you feel that okay, this is the start point. Okay, once you cross that barrier, then the other things matter. Durability, price, and everything. Yeah. So, and the next question, please come again.
What influences does the choice of materials such as wood, veneer, laminate or PVC board have on a designer's satisfaction and recommendation?
In my projects, I will recommend woods and veneers because I prefer natural materials over the artificial man-made ones and synthetic ones.
Same. Me too.
In our case, it is that depends upon the quantity, quantum, the time that we have to deliver the whole project. So, for example, we do a lot of healthcare projects, and if we use veneer or maybe for natural material, it takes too long because it is like 50,000 square foot to be done in about 6 months' time. So, in that case, we use laminate in a great way. So that depends upon the aesthetic that we want to have. Secondly, also the time that we have. And thirdly, the budget that we have. So depending upon that, we choose what kind of materials which will, allow us to go for. Thank you.
Do you prefer to recommend natural materials to clients? Why or why not?
I think natural materials, we definitely in our practice try and recommend natural materials as much as possible because less processing means they've created a lower carbon footprint. And we also try and use materials from the area where we are building, where we are designing the project, because there again, it's localized and it's for one thing, it's created a lesser carbon footprint in transportation, but also it's, more off the place. So it invariably works better, but increasingly, like you said, because of the scale and the time period in which you have to deliver, one is being forced to use more man-made materials. And there's no getting away from it, but we still try to be conscious about what kind of man-made materials we're using and the process that has gone into it. So, for instance, laminates and application like surface application materials that have been produced from some kind of circularity always get a higher, priority in our selection, as well as materials like, which are bamboo-based, because you know that even though they're being processed somewhere else and being transported, the process of creating it is actually setting off carbon footprints, and it is sequestering carbon. So that's what informs our selection process.
Kenneth, if I may add just in there, although it's not part of the question that you asked, Sri Lanka being an extremely small community, we are located in, everybody knows everybody. Although it's not part of the question, I'd like to add, at least for me, when we select a material, I would like to also look at the trust that we build through the lifetime of projects, the vendors that we associate, because we are a people industry. A design takes on so many stakeholders, although at the end of the day, the design may be yours, but behind the shadow work, there are so many stakeholders that come into play. So in selecting a material, you definitely will look at, especially if it is not made in the country, who the vendors are, who the agents are, what is their after sales service. Are they approachable? Would they send a quotation? Would they really liaise and respond to you on a timely manner? So all those proponents come into play.
What are your thoughts on durability and sustainability of various materials and finishes?
Okay, I'm going to answer that. Yes. First of all, let me just continue Kamilka's thing, right? So for me, in my practice, there are three parts to it. First thing is the material itself, whether we are using natural materials or man-made materials. And this word sustainability is very important, but then, we are looking at sustainability is a broad subject, and it's not just carbon footprint which comes to play, right? So it's the lifetime of the material. So where do we source it? The economic factor of it. Where does the money channel down? Does it trickle down to the local economy? And then does it sustain all of this? Gender equality, all that comes to play, right? So it's a broad subject, and I would say we should consider looking into it, right? The second thing is, which is very equally important when we have natural materials or man-made material, it depends on who's using these things to produce a product, right? So when it comes to natural material, your local carpenter would be would be more skilled. But, given a sophisticated material like veneer, so you need specialized machinery, right? So I have my friend here, Elisha from Westgate, and I give her so much of trouble every day, right? I bring some material and I was like, dude, I need this done. And I need it done like this, right? So she's like, oh God, Ajanta, I can't deal with you, right? So it happens like that, right? So that is very important. So third component being, where do we use it, right? Basically, I think that this is, I'm going to touch base on your first question, how do we implement and then push it towards the client? Look, I'm going to use a bit of cross-disciplinary terminology here. So if we are to tackle something like that, first of all, what we look at is the brand itself. If it's a commercial brand or it can be an individual's house, for me, the brand is the person who's living in it, right? And what their feelings towards, that space. So whatever material that we are using has to cater to that brand. If not, it's just a designer's crazy view of something, right? And at the end of the day, you will have a beautiful house that might go in a magazine that will, make you famous, but the person who's living in it doesn't have any relationship with that piece of artwork or the creation that we had done. The second of that is the budget. Whether you have a beautiful vision for a beautiful brand, if the budget doesn't satisfy that, then you have a problem. So when it comes to selecting materials, you have to be very mindful. Okay, this is the brand, this is the imagery that the brand requires. How do we create it with this kind of budget? So maybe you limit the amount of materials, you maybe look at alternative materials. I mean, there are loads of materials that we can use, and how do we create? This is where mostly, I think for me, 70% to 80% of creativity comes to play in using these materials, and how do we manipulate that to use within this budget and to create this output, right? And the third thing is, when it comes to material, it's a collective effort. It's not the material that we are highlighting, right? It's a collective of materials come together to push out a certain look and a feel, right? So it's if I give you an analogy, for me, it's a bit like a stage set, where the material is not the center stage actor, but the stage set in the background, which is doing a very important role of facilitating that play. So those are my views. Thank you.
Regarding the budget, I feel that when a customer chooses an architect or a designer, they know what they are doing, and when they go to him, it is going to be costing like this and this. That's what I feel when they choose, as a client, when they choose an architect or a designer. When they come to you, mostly they are only focusing on the same guy who wants to do the house for him or her. So I think they have a feeling that this is going to be the budget when you approach an architect, isn't it?
I'd like to add something to the perspective of the client. I think clients today are very well educated, and they have a very strong consciousness, and that also plays a part in the entire design process, which includes material selection. So, we have often actually reconsidered things that we were planning to use because of feedback from the client and the perspective that they bring, the sensitivities that they have, and we found that it's this increasing collaboration with the client, even on finally the decision is yours, but if you open your ear and your mind to where they are coming from, it helps sometimes redirect it in a better place. And I find that, that's something that we are increasingly seeing in our practice because, like I said, clients today are very well informed. Sometimes, they know about certain things maybe even more than we do because they have been exposed to it. Maybe they've traveled to an area that we haven't been to, and yeah.
Last and the final, how do future trends affect selection of materials and finishes in a design? How do future trends affect the selection of materials?
Well, there are many new materials are introduced, and the why we select material, first of all, what aesthetics we want, and then what are the functional requirements that we expect from that material where it is going to be placed. There are many things wherein the surfaces are coming into the picture, like countertops, like flooring, like facade, like wall treatments. So wallpaper is also a material. And there are so many things that comes into our mind when we start doing the designing. So we always would like to introduce new products so that we make our project more recent, more of the unique. So that really matters us a lot. Secondly, secondly, when we travel abroad, we see lot many things which really have a better functional requirement satisfaction. So yes, this definitely affects our decision.
Anything?
I think the trends are changing pretty fast. And the materials, yes, there are a lot of inflow of new materials coming in. Right now, the interiors is moving towards a minimalistic trend where we have very less of wall panels, more of loose furniture and things like that. So I think it's a very wise decision to kind of combine the evergreen material with a bit of new material, because as and when the trend will change, those new materials would be out of fashion and your design would start looking outdated. So we always try and mix and match and create a balance so that we come out with the best outcome.
I think the new trends will be more towards biomimicking and materials like concrete, which are self-healing. Using bacteria, like bacteria helping the concrete to self-heal the cracks and all. Another aspect is that I work in interiors, so the sustainability word is pretty much used as in just like that. But I feel that going forward, we need more recyclable materials because in interiors the shelf life is, year by year it is decreasing. From 10 years to 5 years, people are wanting to change the look and feel of the space. So what you need is not a sustainable material, but a more, product which is recyclable. Yeah.
To add on you raised the previous question. Can you repeat it, please?
What are your thoughts on the durability and sustainability of various materials and finishes?
Yeah, I think in selecting a material, there are many factors that you count in. How easy to maintain, the cost effectiveness, durability, and that all depends on the type of project that it is. If it is like a hospital project or a hospitality project, what is the wear and tear? How easy would the material, how would it react to people walking on top of it and things like that. So it is many levels of things, because at the end of the day, design is a language and it's a cohesive whole that comes together, and the vocabulary of it is its material. So there is no, I don't think there is just one or two things that as a designer or an architect that we consider, but it's a layer of a lot of I won't even say multidisciplinary, but a array of a lot of things that we consider when we select a material. Then we propose it to the client, and clients are across social media. They're very well informed. We have Pinterest, we have all sorts of things that expose the clients. So when trends come and go, just butting into the last question, it's important that we know what the trends are, but I don't think it's important to be a trend setter. Personally, it is not, but it is how you sort of put a specific design concept to that client so that you achieve a cohesive whole for the client as well as you. At the end of the day, the client lives in it. It just becomes a project for you.
We were talking about futurism, and I think increasingly technology and material application is merging, because it's a lot about what kind of technology, especially intelligent systems, building systems that you're incorporating that begin to dictate the material application. So, that's a very interesting shift in the way materials are selected and specified too. I mean, it's beginning to play a big influence in the selection of materials.
I'm just going to add on to that, like how Ruchi was talking about, the manufacturing methodologies also is going to change the materials that we're going to use rapidly. 3D printing is developing rapidly, and then we have 5-axial milling, 3-axial milling, and milling processors, right? And then right now we have metal 3D printing, and then we are using those components in certain machinery, and then even in building construction. So the manufacturing methodologies and the forming technologies will have a very big say on what kind of materials that we will use in future. But also we need to understand that all boils down to where we use it, like the certain brand, the type of project, and what is the use of that going to be. Also, I'm going to just touch base on a question and a comment that you raised about, like, when we architects get involved, the clients know that it's expensive, but not really. I mean, in the local context, we do have customers and clients coming to us, and then they don't have massive budgets. What do we do? So we go into material palettes that they can afford, locally sourced, that they can use. Maybe they can do the building on their own using those locally available materials, right? So by doing that, we can actually not only cater the rich and only serve like that 5% of society that can have unlimited budgets and this thing. So we have to start catering those each and every layer, and that's part of being a sustainable economy, right? Thanks.
I think we're done with that. Thank you all for the good information shared to all of us.